Welcome everyone to the only lap guide on YouTube with the purpose of making you average in the iRacing Lotus 79. For Christmas 2024, iRacing gave the 79 its latest and greatest tyre model, which is a massive step forward and has sent participation through the roof. My motivation for making this video is from watching people struggle in the first two rounds, drivers with decent I ratings struggling, mostly overdriving the car, but just struggling for that consistency and understanding on how to make this car work. So, this is not a guide on how to be the fastest, because I don't know. If you need to find that last second to be as quick as Partonen or Henkel, I can't help you. This is a video to help everyone get up to speed, be consistent, and have some more fun racing. So I've created a hybrid general Lotus 79 guide and a Lotus 79 Suzuka lap guide all in one. But if you can be quick at Suzuka, you can be quick anywhere. So these techniques or tips that you pick up here should help everywhere really. This video isn't a complete guide around the Lotus 79, but we'll just go over some quick basics. The gearbox in this car is one of those where you need to lift on the upshifts, you don't need to lift on the downshifts. You can use auto clutch, but it will be a little bit slower. But if it helps you get up to speed, go ahead, use that. You can use a H shifter if you've got one, but it will be slower than most of the fast guys using either button clutches or hand clutches on the wheel. Virtual mirror is optional, but the mirrors on this car are awful and you're probably going to crash. So the lap time that I've recorded here is a 1:45.9, which should be around about top 10 pace in most of the splits this week away from the soft. So without further ado, let's get into setting this up. Okay, let's set up the session. So we're going to go to the series list, go into the Lotus 79 section, and press Go Racing and go to Test Drive. That'll get us there the quickest. Once we're in here, there's going to be a whole bunch of auto settings there, which for me, auto is bad, so I just like to statically assign the temperature, the wind speed, the cloud cover, everything else, track state to 50%. That'll just make sure that we're good and that we're going to be in consistent conditions. Pause it here if you want to copy those conditions for yourself. Okay, so we're just going to use the car setup from Pauli Partonen, link in the Discord. We're going to keep it all as standard, but we're going to change the fuel to 20 litres just so that if you want to do a couple more laps, you can do, and it's not, as light as it's possibly going to be on fuel, so it should give you a better indication of how it's going to handle. Okay, so let's get on with the lap. We're going to head down to turn 1, just lining ourselves up nicely to the left. Looking out on the left here for an orange marker, that one there. That's where I like to turn in. You could turn in a little bit later at the 50 potentially, but either way, just a nice ease into the corner. Just going to slow it down here. And the key thing here, as is going to be shown the whole lap, is about how much we move the steering wheel or how little we move the steering wheel. Keep an eye on that steering wheel in the top center of your screen. We're going to aim to go no more than 45 degrees throughout this whole turn. Maybe towards the end we'll get a little bit past it as we have to straighten the car up on the second part. But let's keep an eye on that. So we'll start turning in around about this orange marker. Now here for me the super interesting point is here, it feels like from here you need to straighten the wheel. You don't, but you just keep it at that same steering angle. So it's hardly any angle there. We're going to let the car drift out wide, and if we look at the braking inputs, at the moment we're at 10%. It's super low right now, just to really keep it under control. That's going to be the key thing, just nice, smooth, consistent braking throughout this whole section. Don't rush the gear changes. That's one of the big mistakes that we see people make, is rifling down the gearbox like it's a modern F1 car. Particularly that last gear change that you make. So in this case, we're going to go down to second. If we rush that one down to second, the rear is going to step out. It's going to give us another problem. We don't want to worry about that. So we're going to go into this corner here, carry on, just keep the speed up nicely. Some of the quick guys might use a bit more of the track on the left there. Obviously, getting up on that curb is going to upset the car a little bit, so I probably just keep with this for now. And we're going to swing it into the right. Again, if we have a look at the steering angle, same sort of steering angle, not really moving it. Easing up on the brake now, the car's slowed down enough, so it's just going to start pulling over now. So here we can see the car coming into the apex with only a little tiny bit more steering angle, just letting the front tyres do the work, and it's coming into us. And around about this point here, we're at peak. So we've not gone past 90 there. That's probably the most steering angle we're going to apply on this whole corner. We're going to start straightening it up now, in fact, going to the left. So that's the big difference. The more steering angle you put on there that isn't used, the more speed we're going to lose. And this is a perfect one to show that. If you've got VRS, or I don't know if Garage 61 does it, but you can look in the advanced telemetry, and you can actually see in this balance section, this is a key bit for me, steering angle. So what you're looking for is, you can see as we've turned into turn one here, we've got steering angle going on. Let's make it a bit bigger. And so we can see here, steering angle increasing in the middle of those left three, steering angle increasing. And what I'm looking for is this yaw rate on the right hand side, second one down from, or third one down from the right. So that yaw rate is increasing up to this point. Now here we can see I've probably used too much steering angle there, because I put more steering angle on here and the yaw rate actually reduces. So that tells me that we're probably using too much steering angle. So as much as I'm trying to be soft with it there. There's still room to improve and use less steering angle. Really, really handy piece to look at, that one. Let's just jump back to the onboard. So here we'll just speed it up a little bit as it plays through. So this is just getting the car tucked in. It's happy there. And again, from that inside curb, we're staying away from it a little bit. This is not an optimal lap. This is just a sort of safe lap, really easy to replicate. The more we start riding the curbs, the more we start having to do clever tricks with the steering and everything. You've got to drive a bit more instinctively. This is designed to be more replicated, easily replicated as we go around. So what we're going to do here is just let the car swing out now, getting that steering angle off. Again, we're not using all the left, using a little bit of curb. Important to get straight to the right here. Now, this turn 3, turn 7 section is super important. This is the most important corner for me, or the next two corners are the most important of this whole section. So, no braking as we come into this section here. This is all going to be about playing with the throttle. So here, as we turn in, we're just going to release off the throttle a little bit now, and we're going to bring it over to this curb on the left hand side. Again, check out the steering angle, minimal steering angle there. We're going to aim to get it right up on this curb. Really important tip is to work out from your view. My view is going to be different to yours. The FOV is going to be different. How from your view your wheels line up, because if you look at this view here, it looks like my left wheel is on the grass, but if we just go to the chase view, it's not really. I think that view may be a little bit slightly behind, but it's not. We're on the grasscrete stuff there, so we're okay. You want to take as much of that as possible, get a feel for it, don't upset the car, because the right hander coming up is super important. You don't want to be bouncing around off this curb. So as the car comes down here, we want it to be nice and settled. This transition is key. This is where all the time comes from, in my opinion, in this section. I'm not saying I've got it bang on this example, but this is where there's a lot of time to be gained. So here we have to make a direction change, um, but we're keeping the speed fairly static. So if it was a big speed change, or we have a lot of downforce on the car at this point, it'd be really easy. But we've got a medium amount of downforce on the car because it's not full speed, and we're not slowing down, so we're not going to be using the brake. So what we're going to do is get off the throttle right now. You can see on the throttle trace there, we're going to get right off it just to get the nose in. Once the nose comes in here and we're happy with where we're going to end up, we're going to start easing back on the throttle. Again, what you might want to do here is use a bit of curb, but a little bit of curb here will be okay, but it's going to be super close. If you get too much curb, it's going to unsettle the car. We'll show you a great example of that at the end of the lap. Let's have a look at this from the onboard view. So from the onboard view, we're just going to track it with this white line again, getting that reference from the cockpit view as to how close you are. I like to use these little rivets on the cockpit hood here. So if we just go back a couple, we can see you've got sort of the two on the right hand side here. That's a useful point, and then you've got the one there. And I use different ones with different parts of the track sometimes. But that just gives you a useful idea, so you know that if those 2 points are lined up with the white line, your car actually on track will be roughly on that white line. Just a good little tip there. So back to the inputs. Steering, again, keeping it minimal, not overdoing it. This is the key to this whole section, is not pushing the tyres too much, because if you overuse the fronts here, there's another corner coming up soon where you'll feel the problem with that. And the same for the rears as well. If you start sliding the rears around in this section, you're going to have a problem coming up. So just important to keep it within its limits here. Smooth is key here. Think Jensen button, smooth hands, smooth inputs. Don't try and force the issue too much. So here we're going to come out to roughly center of the track here. And again, little lift on the throttle here just to get the nose in. You can see a blip on the throttle input. As we come to the left, we're going to try and get all the way up onto this grass here. Let's have a look how we did that with the grasscrete. Did we get up there? Yes, we did. And we can see this helps the rotation a little bit. As we play it on. Now, I didn't get as tight on this lap as I would like. So what we should see here really is I'd like to start getting the nose in towards that inside curb a bit more here, but we're just understeering out a little bit here. So it doesn't quite happen, but we do carry some momentum. We're not too far away. And again, let's just track back a little bit and let's have a look at the steering angles. So not even 45 degrees on this, or maybe 45 degrees peak there on the steering, I would say. 40 degrees at that point. That's all you need to use for every little bit, and it's not going to be a lot. It's going to be maybe 3, 4, 5 degrees max that you might be using. That's too much. That's going to be creating a bit of understeer, overheating the tires, and ultimately losing time. This upcoming left-hander is super tricky because the rear is going to be loose. You need to get the widest possible angle here. This is where, to the right here, that we're going to see the quick guys using a lot more road than this. So this bit of grass on the right-hand side is going to get used up in the race, I imagine, and people trying to get those extra few inches just to make this a little bit easier. Again, if you want to get to that very last tenth out of it to be matching the pace of Paulie and co, then you might want to be using that. But this lap is a 45.9, you don't need to do it. So just this is playing it safe. So a nice comfort lift on going into here because the back end will get loose. You need to feel the back end here. You can see there's a bit of rotation there, but it's not too bad. Once you feel that you've gripped up enough, get your foot down as soon as possible. just to maximize the speed onto this straight going into the two Degners. Let's switch back to cockpit view here because this is an important one to line up. This is where, for me, those little rivets on the cockpit view really help. So you need to find a way of getting through this corner that's comfortable for you. So bring it all the way to the left. You're probably looking at turning in around the 50 mark, I would say. What's happened to this? We need to go back to turn 8 here. So turning around the 50. And this is where I sort of use these rivets to aim at the apex. Now, you can't see much apex there, so you've got to try and sort of get used to what you're aiming at and adjust as you get there. Now, this is a high risk corner. For me, the risk reward isn't massive, but that characterizes this whole lap. You know, every corner has a little bit of risk to it. You're not going to gain a lot of time, but if you need every tenth, then that's what you need to do. However, I don't find a lot of value in clonking this curb at full speed. If you hit that too hard, you can see there's a big, massive sausage on the inside of that corner. That's going to kill your car and end your race probably. So here we can see that these two little rivets are aimed at the regular section of this curb, which looks like it's going to be quite brutal. Let's have a look and see how that looks from the chase view, and actually it doesn't look too bad. Could do just getting a couple of frames on there. There we go, perfect. So that's just using that little black and white bit of curb. We're not onto this green part of the curb here on the inside. And if we go back just a little bit and we play it through, we should see that it doesn't unsettle the car too much. We're in control. We're on the red and white curb on the left as we come through here. Again, this section on the left, fast guys are going to be using it, but you've got to scramble the car back over, get it all gathered up for this critical next right-handed Degner 2. So important thing, smooth out of here, keep it relaxed, keep it consistent, and you can gain a lot more time by really nailing Degner 2 than you can by taking an extra few centimeters in that corner. So we're going to come over here, probably come over a little bit too early, I'd say, on this one, to be honest with you. I'm going to super slow it down here. Let's keep an eye on the steering input again. So we're fairly heavy on the brakes, 50% pressure at the minute. And we're going to start turning in as we come off. So as the brake pressure comes off, the steering angle comes on. So just purely looking at the bottom, sorry, at the throttle input and the brake input and the steering inputs right now. So brake at 50%, ease off it, steering comes on as the brake pedal goes off, and we're just easing up on it, and it should come nicely into this second part of Degner 2. There we go. And so yeah, for me this is a little bit wider than I like here, but it is smooth though. We've got nice rotation in the car. If you look at that from the chase view, it looks quite nice. It looks like a lot of rotation there, and you can see that with the throttle input coming up, we can be fairly confident. So you definitely want to be at least half throttle at this point. If you could get it a little bit further right and get on more throttle, great, but this isn't too bad, to be honest with you. I think in the middle of a race, I'll take this. In a Q lap, I probably want to be, like I say, further over and on more power. So we're going to play it through. Car straightens up now, settles out nicely, keeping the throttle level just to make sure we don't have any scary moments. We're going to pick it up as we get out here, because the car's still sliding at that point, and we're right up onto that grasscrete there, and full throttle out of there. Again, I wouldn't really want to be using too much more of the road here. If we go too far left there, the car's going to bottom out, and at some point one of the tyres bites on the tarmac, and then you'll see lots of cars into the walls on the right hand side where they get speared off quite often. So that's the two Degners done. As we head into the hairpin now, we're going to keep the car on the left initially, and once your tyres are up to temperature, I think that you can head into this with a lot of confidence and look to brake once you get past this little kink, which is annoyingly placed, but you don't want to be braking too much earlier than that. You're going to lose too much time. So it's about getting the car in. You can start coming off the throttle here. I'm quite gradual on the brakes at this point already. I think that might be a little bit early, but we're going for quite a smooth braking transition here. And you see we're off the brakes super early here, so the braking has all been done by this point. So once again, braking consistently at sort of like 75%, so it's quite hard. And then as the brake pressure comes off, the steering angle goes in. And I'm just going to play this through once here. It's difficult to see at this low speed. What we can see here is a lot of rotation there. This isn't really a line guide. There's lots of lines into this hairpin, but what we can see is that I prefer the later apex here. You don't want to be hugging this apex for too long. It doesn't seem to suit this car. You want to take it a little bit later and get the car straightened up and fired out on the exit as much as possible. You can also take a more central line where you effectively stay a little bit away from the apex and carry more speed. This is my preferred line, to be honest. Let's just take that back, and I'm going to put this at full speed so you can see that nice little rotation in the middle. And it's really that last piece from near sort of where we lay apex. That's really, I think, a good example of letting the car do the work, not using too much steering angle. So let's just try it again slowly. At 50%, you can see here. We're okay. It's good. Now here it really starts to bite. You can see the car really turn in there. Let's just have a quick look at the yaw rate that we see on here. I mean, yeah, you can see that yaw rate peaks there. Look, so and that's what we can see. That lovely correspondence there from the steering angle to the yaw rate. So steering angle comes on, yaw rate is solid, and it almost follows it in sync, which is lovely. So that tells me that there's not as much slip, there's not any excess slip, but you can sort of see it and feel it as well. And then as we come out there, we just get on the power. You might want to use some of that curve, but it's not absolutely necessary for this lap. Okay. Let's play this on and head up towards the spoon curves. Okay. So this is probably one of the trickiest corners on the track, I would say. This is where there's a lot of time to be gained. This is where you need the confidence. What you might spot in the bottom right is I've gone to 44.5% brake pressure, up from 43.5 that the setup comes with. For me, that just gives me a bit more confidence. Go into these quick corners with a little bit of braking. It means the rear is less likely to move around on you, which I find is quite a big advantage into these types of corners. You need that confidence in here. You need to trust what the car is going to do and not be surprised, because this is where you're going to lose a lot of confidence and a lot of time if the back end steps out on you. So here, critical thing is to really try and use the pedals to turn the car. We've got the wheel relatively straight at the minute as we head into there, and we're just starting to get on the brakes. I'm going to be completely honest here and sort of share how I approach this. There's not a lot of braking markers around here, but what you could use is this little service sort of road here as a rough marker. But I'm more of a visual person. I more look at the apex and just sort of go by feel. But if that's what you need to use, you can use that. So I find here it's critical to be smooth with the car. You don't want to overload the front. So if you stand on the brakes here, the front tires are going to get overloaded, and by the time you turn in, you're already losing grip. You're already losing time. So it's if you look at the brake trace, it's quite a smooth um, brake trace there as we go into it. But the braking is done already here. It's a very short braking period. The braking is done and we're easing off the brakes now. Keep an eye on the steering angle again. Let's just slow this right down. Steering angle again. What do we get to? Hardly anything. So 20, 30 degrees, 30 degrees max there. And we're at 18 on the exit. So we're really using that initial bit of braking to get the car in, get down to the right speed, and not understeering out. I would say that through these two spoon curves, most people are going to be losing 7/10 of a second against the fastest guys, not including myself and the very fastest guys who are using the correct amount of steering and using the pedals to rotate the car. I think it's going to be a huge amount of time here. So great example of steering input. You really don't need a great deal to get the car turned around here. This piece in the middle of spoon, you can use a lot more curb on the right hand side there. A lot more curb. So you can get your left wheel all the way over onto this red and white bit if you want to. I've not done it on this lap on purpose because I find that it really unsettles the car. It makes it a lot harder to control getting into the second bit. And to be honest, I probably just didn't carry enough speed into this whole section. You'll see what I mean as we get into the next bit. So again, what you're looking to do here is keep super smooth on the steering, no major changes between the two corners. You can see the steering trace in the top left there. We shouldn't be looking to make any big movements here, so keep it fairly consistent and play around with that throttle and brake pedal. So here, really, it's just an amount that you're going to come off the throttle and when you choose to get completely off that throttle. So as we come in here, I'm already noticing here that the car's coming in a little bit early for what I'd like because the apex is further around. So we're getting in a bit early. So okay, we're going to have to commit to this now. So we're going to have to hold tight just to shorten the distance and get some time back that way. But what we'll see here is that it gets up on the curb here a bit too much. And this is where what the problem happens is here I'm expecting the car to sort of continue to track out, but we get some extra grip. We come up onto the curb here and we get a bit of an oversteer moment to show you what that looks like from the onboard. There we go. So we're way up on that curve there. That's not optimal. We are going to lose time all the way down the back straight for that, but it's not too bad. We took a bit of a shorter route through it, so it's not a disaster. So we'll just play that out here. So what we do commit to is getting on the throttle super early and carrying the most amount of speed out that we can. No problem in using that rumble strip there if you can. That's not going to cost you any time. But we can see we've lost 500ths on that just on this point already on the back straight. So let's just play that back at full speed just to see how that looks from the onboard view. Okay, so let's skip ahead now. 130R is a non-issue in this car, so we're going to go straight to the final chicane. And this is a critical one. This one is a great corner to practice braking techniques. This one I've used in the past before. Use the active reset function to keep having a go and really trying to get the most out of the braking. And you can also really feel when the car grips up at the end of the braking phase and just seems to turn in on its own without any extra input. So we've just come around 130R. We go up to the left super quickly. We're already at the left when we're at the 150 marker. We're going to play down there with the 100-meter marker, see how close we can get to it, get it slowed down, and get a nice line through the last corner. So let's play it through slowly here. So we're going to be aiming for 75% brake pressure. You can go for 100% pressure, but it is a bit more tricky. Let's just go back. That all happened way too fast, didn't it? So where did we break at the end? Break in the end. So back a little bit more. Okay, so we're just starting to feed the brakes on as we get to the 100. I'll take that. We're probably at peak pressure at the 100. So you can get to 90 or 100 here very quickly, but you've got to get off it. I'm actually aiming for a more level braking pressure here initially, but it does bleed off a little bit too much, but it works out nicely. There's an element of trying to do the right input, but also go by what you feel as well. So the braking comes off a little bit there. So up to 75%. Get all that braking done now, keeping the wheel relatively straight up until this point. So the steering wheel has hardly any angle in it at this point. The brake pressure is going to come off here. The steering angle is going to come on. And you can see that by the time we get to this point, there's not a huge amount of steering input gone in, but actually the car's come over quite a bit. Once the car is slowed down here, then we're going to put that steering angle on, and it's picking your spot here again, using these rivets on the cockpit view to line up with the curb in here. Let's just check where that's going to put us from the chase view. So again, you can see just from this chase view that the rotation looks nice. The car is really getting a good amount of yaw angle in there. So again, so there we hit just the red bit. I find if you take a bit more than that, the center of the car is not on this curve. If the center of the car gets on the curbs, I find that it just causes a lot of problems. Let's go back to the cockpit view. So we're not going to go past 90 degrees rotation. We're at 75% there. So again, we're getting near 90 degrees. We're not going to get past it. I was particularly happy with this last corner, this part of the lap here. So you see the car's attitude here is to follow this curve round to the left. The two front tyres aren't washing out. It looks like we're going to follow that curve up there, not get too much up there. That's a comfortable amount for me. Again, you start using a bit more than that, the car gets all unsettled and you can't get on the power nicely. You have to wait for the car to settle, but that worked out okay on this occasion. Let's go back to cockpit view. So that should be the rotation done now. So we're going to start getting off that steering angle, straighten it up, get on full power, and then we've got a nice run to the line then. And that's a lap.